afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome back. Welcome back to another PorscheCooled podcast. Today we have another special episode, another one of our PorscheCooled owner stories. And today I have a special guest coming from Sydney, Australia, my hometown. Justin's going to be with us shortly through Zoom. And as I always say at the start of these podcasts, if it's on Zoom, the quality is not going to be perfect, but it's going to be as good as I can get it, and I've set it up that way so we get the best quality out of Zoom. But it is a Zoom recording, so you will probably notice that it's distant. It's a long way away from Bahrain, where I'm located at the moment, to Australia. But anyway, this is a PorscheCooled Owner Stories, and the PorscheCooled Owner Stories is where I get people to come on the podcast and literally share their Porsche story. And I think that's what makes PorscheCooled Stories interesting, because it broadens the conversation. It makes the conversation a lot more than what Steve and I usually chat about on our Friday episode. We get a different perspective. We get a different perspective from different owners, and we get to talk to people about their different Porsches, whether it be a 911. Like I said, you don't have to have a 911. You could own a 944. You could own a 928. You can own a Boxster. You can own a Cayman. It's just about Porsche ownership, and it's about sharing your story. So all our listeners who are avid Porsche enthusiast owners or people wanting to buy a Porsche can share the passion, I guess. It's all about the community. That's what we're about here at PorscheCooled. It's all about the Porsche community and connecting with other owners and chatting with other owners. Like I said, this is our Tuesday episode, and our usual episode is on Fridays with Steve at GT Steve on Instagram. And I'd like to thank everyone so far for all their support on the podcast. I say this every episode, but I really do feel quite humbled with the amount of downloads we've been getting, the amount of messages I've been receiving. It's been great, and the podcast has been very well received, and I really appreciate all the support. So thank you for that. If you want to support PorscheCooled, you can also become a PorscheCooled Exclusive member. Justin, who I'm talking to today, is one of those members. He's, I think, the second member to sign up. And for $5 US a month, you get like 24 hours early access to all our episodes. You get special posts just for members. You get a shout out on the episode, on the next podcast episode with Steve and I. And you get, we're going to be doing some live Q&A, live streaming videos as well. They'll come a little bit later. The live Q&As, they'll come when we have maybe 50 members. We've only got 4 at the moment, so please sign up if you haven't already. But when we get about 50 members, maybe 30 to 50 members, I'll start doing those live Q&As, which will be great fun. Anyway, enough of me talking. I'm going to get Zoom hooked up here, and I'm going to contact Justin in Sydney, Australia. It's Sunday night there. It's Sunday afternoon here in Bahrain. And we'll talk about his story and about his newly acquired Porsche 911. So just give me 1 second and we'll get Justin on the line. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled podcast, and welcome back to PorscheCooled Owner Stories. So this is episode 4, and today we have Justin. Justin comes from Sydney, where everyone knows I come from as well. And Justin just recently bought a 911. Hi, Justin.
Hey, good evening, Michael.
How are you?
Yeah, doing very well. Thank you for having me on today. I listen to all your podcasts and watch your YouTube vids, so I'm absolutely thrilled to be featured in the owner's stories today.
Oh, I'm glad to have you on. And I mentioned to people before that you're one of the 4, I think we have now 4 members of PorscheCooled on Patreon. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining. It's all the support helps us on keeping this going.
Yeah, not a problem. Look, I mean, once I had purchased my Porsche and I was doing a bit of research, I came across your YouTube channel and started listening to it, and really started listening to the podcasts. And I think it's great what you're doing. I feel like there's a connection that you have with your listeners, and I know that your podcast or even your YouTube channel is on the smaller side. So I'm very happy to support a good cause there.
Great, thanks. Yeah, no, I've been doing the YouTube for a while, but it's like I haven't been making a lot of videos lately. I did actually make a video in Bahrain yesterday, which is going to go live in a couple of hours' time. So that's a slightly different one. I'm actually driving a Mercedes-Benz 4-wheel drive in that one, not a 911. So we'll see how that goes across. We'll see how that goes across with the Porsche family that follow me. But I'm interested in talking to you about today, and I know I've looked at your, we've spoken on Instagram, and I've looked at your Instagram, and I know you're a big watch fan like me, and I want to touch on that at the end of this podcast. But more importantly, I'd like to know about your 911. This is all about 911 ownership, and I guess for you, have you always been a Porsche person? Have you always do you have those memories of seeing your first Porsche, of seeing it in a magazine? Have you always wanted one, or is it just something that came around recently?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd definitely say I've always wanted one. I mean, I can't pinpoint exactly when the obsession started, but it was definitely when I was very young, and it only grew from there. So, first off, one of my best friend, who I've known since I was 9 years old, and still friends with today, is German. And his father worked for Volkswagen, so he was constantly talking about Porsche and how Porsche is the best. And that was in the that was in the 80s. So growing up. So I mean, I was born in 76, so I'm about to turn 44 here. But back in the 80s, growing up, it was very rare to see a Ferrari or Lamborghini driving the streets. The only time I saw those cars were, most likely at car shows. Yeah. But I remember seeing, like 924s, 944s, 928s driving around. But the ultimate was when you'd see a 911.
My first memory is the ones with the wing. You know what I mean? The 80s, the late 80s 911s with the wing. And I used to watch cars go by when I used to live in the country and things like that. And I used to see them and it was like, wow, that's just an amazing looking car. You know what I mean? It was an amazing looking car at the time.
Yeah. Well, I remember just being mesmerized by 911s, knowing that those were the best of the Porsches to own. And also every time I saw a 911, it was unmistakable that it was a 911 because of the beautiful shape and design. I also think the media also shaped my desires, watching a lot of TV and movies growing up. I remember, James Dean, the actor, being this, ultra cool guy with a, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, who died in his, Porsche 550 Spider.
Yeah, true.
And,
true.
And I'm not sure if you remember, but so I remember in high school, I don't know if you had this show Beverly Hills 90210.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So you obviously remember Dylan McKay driving around in his black Porsche 356 convertible speedster.
That's true, actually. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I thought he was, just so cool. He was the heartthrob of the show. He was also a bit of a bad boy, who got all the girls, and he had this amazing Porsche convertible. So it's definitely the media that starts to even play on you as you grow up. And I also remember just the movies that you watched back then. So in the 80s, you probably remember Risky Business with Tom Cruise. There was a Porsche 928 in that movie. Yeah. The sort of the high school movies, 16 Candles, which came out in 84, I believe. Yeah. That had a beautiful red 944. And then a movie that I watched multiple times, Can't Buy Me Love. I think that came out in 87, and that had a white 911 Carrera Targa. And I think that's one of the Porsches that definitely stuck in my head there.
Yeah, it was either Porsche or Ferrari, wasn't it? It was like you either went either way. You either liked both of them. It was always like the movies either had the Ferrari in there or they had the Porsche in there, and it kind of sort of. People always say about the poster on the wall. Yeah. People say they want to drive all those cars. They had their poster on the wall. I was listening to Spike's Car Radio, and it had those guys from the car guys in the UK, and he said he just wants to drive all those cars that he used to have on his wall, being the 959, the 917, the F40, and those sort of cars. And I think that's what sort of it embeds itself in your memory about what you really want to do. So you haven't owned a 911 before, have you?
No, I haven't owned a 911 before, and I've never owned a sports car, actually. So, I think the most fun car, I guess that, you could call it, that I had was probably in my 20s. I had an Acura 3.2 TL. So,
Okay.
I mean, I know they don't have Acuras here in Australia, but I mean, I've never seen that model car here. I mean, I don't know if there was ever a Honda 3.2 TL, but I mean,
don't think so.
In Canada, in Canada, they're the they were the Acura 3.2 TLs, not Hondas. And
sorry, Justin, that's where you're originally from. You're from Canada.
Yep.
So when did you move to Australia?
So I mean, you could probably tell that I'm not originally from Australia from the accent, but so born and raised in Toronto, Canada, and moved to Sydney 10 years ago. So I'm married now, and my wife, I actually met her in Toronto, and we started dating when we were in Canada. There, ended up getting married, had kids. They were born in Toronto, but when they turned 2 and 4, she wanted to be closer to her family, and yes. We ended up coming to Sydney in January of 2010.
Wow, long time ago.
It's been about almost 11 years now.
You're an Aussie now. You're an Aussie.
Yeah.
So the 911.
I am, but unfortunately.
Sorry, go on. I just want to say we have a bit of a weird delay, Justin. Just a slight one. So when you decided you wanted to buy a 911, how long ago was that? Before you bought your car you've got now, when did you decide I'm going to start looking for a 911? Yeah,
I started thinking about it seriously in December, I would say. I actually remember the conversation I was having with a colleague of mine. We went for a coffee, and it's getting close to year end, and I think I remember just saying to him, I think next year, so meaning 2020 is the year that I buy a sports car, or a true car. I think the conversation was between my friend and I just about where cars were headed. We were talking about Teslas and cars starting to go electric, and we're probably talking about Uber as well, and driverless cars and that sort of thing. And I remember just saying something to the effect of really have to own like a true automobile, like something that something that will hold its value, be really seen as kind of a almost like a collector's item 20 years from now, when cars as we know it are obsolete, right?
True.
And that essentially I think brings you to a Porsche 911. In my head anyways. Obviously there are nicer cars, like if you think about Ferraris or more expensive cars, I guess, but when you think of the true iconic sports car, I believe that's a Porsche 911.
True. For the cost, a Porsche, the best thing about a Porsche is for the cost of ownership, for the cost of running it, they're really not expensive cars. You know what I mean? I always say that the Audi that I owned before used to cost me more in services than the 911 I have now. So they're not really that expensive. If you maintain it properly, you get a reasonable one. They're not that expensive to maintain. Insurances are not that bad. So they are a really good option compared to something like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that. So when you started to look for the 911, and we haven't given away what you've purchased yet, but it will be in the title of this podcast, so people probably already know. But did you start to do research? So did you go onto Renless forums? Did you go into Piston Head forums? How did you do the research? Because in fact, tell people what you've bought, and then we can talk about the research side of it and how you got into the car you're into now.
Yeah. So essentially, I bought a 911 996.2. So it is a C2 Cabriolet model year 04. And the color is basalt, I guess you say basalt black, with a black interior. So black on
metallic black.
Metallic black. That's correct. Yeah. So that's what I decided to go with.
And it's manual? It's manual, right?
It is manual. Yes. So that, when I was searching, a manual was, I was only going to go for a manual. I knew enough to, for me personally, not to want an automatic. Like I just think it would be a waste. I wanted something that you truly drive, and get driver experience and, basically the true sort of driving experience sort of going to the wayside there.
So was it your intention on buying a Cabriolet, or you just happened to come across a good example that was a Cabriolet and you decided, I'm happy with this?
Yeah, no, it was definitely my intention to go with a Cabriolet. I mean, I know, the true Porsche enthusiast, it's probably not their, it's definitely not their first choice. But I think things that play into it for me, first off, growing up in Toronto, Canada, where you only get about, 3 months of true summer, and then it gets cold quite quickly going into autumn and winter, and then even spring's a little bit on the cooler side. I just remember growing up that I always would see people with convertibles, and I just thought that it was pretty cool. It's not something that you can just really own unless it's just for fun kind of thing in Toronto. And then again, I guess with some of the actors that I was mentioning with their cars, like James Dean's Spider there, and even Dylan's in Beverly Hills 90210. I mean, those were also convertibles. Yeah. And I always thought to myself, if I ever lived in say Miami, LA, Sydney, where the weather is going to be pretty much warm or hot for 80, 70%, 80% of the time, I would definitely buy a convertible. And so that whole Porsche 911 and convertible, just it was just that lifestyle that it represents is why I went for it.
Right. It kind of makes sense, like I don't know whether you've listened to the previous podcast where I've actually mentioned to people that I think Cabriolets are coming back. I think I'm onto it early, and I think you've already bought into it. And I think cabs are coming back, and it all sort of spurred on by the point that I saw that image in Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. And it's a recent exhibit, and they put a Cabriolet up there with the hardtop with a surfboard on the roof. And that's on display in the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. And I reckon Cabriolets are coming back. And I think your point you made about, the Speedster and the 356s, Cabriolets were always cool Porsches. They were the ones that people wanted. They wanted the Speedster. They wanted the 356C convertible. You know what I mean? It was the thing to buy. I think it's only recently that people sort of think, Cabriolets aren't, Porsche purists. They're not what you would buy. They've got too much weight in the back. I think that's wrong, and I think the Cabriolet has its purpose. And I think, like you said, in a country like Australia, I mean, in the UK, I think it's a little bit probably pointless because you've got like a 3-month window basically of sun. But I think in Australia, it's a really good idea, and especially when you can hear the sound of the engine, you've got the top down. It handles really well. Yeah, there's a little bit more weight, but you've got a manual. You know what I mean? If it was a Tiptronic or an automatic or a PDK or whatever, maybe not. But I think what you've bought is a good choice. Now, the 996. Were you worried about the concerns with the 996? I mean, I have a 997.1, and it has the same concerns about IMS and all those things. Did your car have a good service history? Did any of those things worry you before you purchased it?
Yeah, well, that's. I did a lot of research. I actually love doing the research on these kinds of things, whenever it's time to, either buy a new watch or a new car, even if it's a new refrigerator. It's all part of the fun of buying something new. And just, when you start watching the videos on YouTube, the IMS is something that comes up. But, once you start doing enough research on that, you do realize that the IMS issue, although it's there, it affects a very small percentage of cars. And so, once you start doing the research, you do realize that, look, if it hasn't been done, it's only going to cost, $2,000 to $3,000 to get it done. If it hasn't gone already on a car this old, then it's actually most likely not going to happen. But for that peace of mind, for that $2,000 to $3,000, you can get it done. But I did want to find an example that was already where it already had been done.
So your cars had the LN Engineering IMS or similar modification done, has it?
That's correct. Yes. So you actually get in the in the service manual, there's actually a sticker there that says, IMS. I can't remember what it says, but there's actually not. You actually see something in the service manual showing that the IMS was done properly.
So is that guaranteed for? I'm not quite sure about this answer, so maybe you know the answer. Is it guaranteed for X amount of years or X amount of kilometers, or is it? What is the deal with that? I mean, do you remember when yours was done in your car? Was it done recently, or was it done 10 years ago? Or
yeah, no, mine was done recently. So he had actually just done it in February of this year.
Oh, okay. So before you purchased it?
Yeah, before I purchased it.
Right.
So I think once it's done, it's updated, right? Like you don't have the faulty IMS that Porsche originally used, and once it's done, it's done. It's not something that you have to redo again, or I've never heard of anyone having to do it twice.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, a 996 and even a 997, and I think I was watching something and they were talking about 996. It said if you have, and I think it was a UK article or UK video, but if you've done over 50,000 miles in the car in the 996, the chances of IMS happening, especially if you've had regular services done and they've checked your air filter and there's no metal in there, etc., then you're pretty much not going to have an issue with the car. I don't know how true that is, but it sounds about right. I mean, it needs to be driven. You know what I mean? Cars that have more miles on them, more kilometers on them, 996s, 997s, are unlikely to suffer an IMS failure.
Yeah, that's correct. I think the most important thing when you're purchasing a car, really looking at the servicing itself. So, everyone is scared of higher mileage cars. But even if it's a high mileage car, as long as the servicing was done at the correct interval, it's having the minor service, the major services done, that really shouldn't scare buyers away, from a car. Or a high mileage car. It's the history is what you want to take a look at.
So, Justin, how many kilometers did your car have when you purchased it?
Sorry, Michael, I missed that.
How many miles did your car have when you purchased it?
Yeah, it had 75,000 kilometers. So okay. when I saw it and took it for a test drive, it had 75,000, and when I actually took it home, there was about 75,200 kilometers on it.
Okay, that's actually quite low. That's actually not bad for a 2004, right? 2004 996.
Yeah, it is quite low, and I think for me that was what I was looking for. I was looking for what 911 budget that I was looking at. It was definitely going to be a 996 because the thing is, when I started looking at 997s, I would have loved to go for a 997, but so when I was evaluating models, all the roads were kind of leading me to the 996, and I'll tell you why. So I just felt that the 997s with the same 3.6 liter engine wasn't worth paying the extra, possibly 25 to 30,000 more for the same engine, but just really the updated interior. And if you actually go with an S or a 3.8 liter engine, then in Australia anyways, you're paying actually an additional $40K roughly on top of the 996 base price. So you're actually getting very close to about 100,000 in Australia for a 3.8. So and then another thing that probably would have led me to 3.6 if I was going to I actually paid only about $50,000 for my car, but if I was going to have to put another say 25 on top of that, I felt that I probably would have went with the Carrera 4S, just because I really liked that wider body, or that turbo body, and so yeah, it really all the roads were kind of leading me towards sort of a 996 model as opposed to a 997.
Yeah, I've been looking at the market in Australia. I always look at car sales and I look at the 996s, and you can see they're jumping up in price. There's a few people there that want too much for their model. I think I saw one the other day for 70,000 for a Carrera, 996 Carrera. I don't know if you saw that one.
So Michael, it's interesting that you saw that one, because I think that's a blue with the gray interior.
Yeah,
I think it's an O2.
Yeah.
So that one has close to 98,000 kilometers, and that one has actually been put on hold. So that actually is, it's already put on hold. It's only been on the market for 1 week. So that makes me feel good, because I bought mine for 50,000. I think it's a better example.
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference is that it's a Cabriolet, right? But it actually has a lot less kilometers.
No, there was and I've spoken about this previously. Sorry, I spoke about this previously about there was an oak green Cabriolet for sale at Auto House Hamilton, and it was 42,000. And I think it was an early model. It was like a 98 model. And I said to Steve that I do the podcast with, I said, Steve, that is a great buy. You know, I'm so tempted to buy that Cabriolet for 42 grand. You know what I mean? Because it was I think almost like original owner. I don't know whether you saw that one. It was quite good. But, you know, the price you bought, I think at 50K, that's a pretty good price for a 996, because they're definitely on the rise. And it seems people now want, you know, closer to 60. They want 55, 60,000. And a lot of those have high kilometers. They're over 100,000 kilometers. So the fact that yours only has, you know, 75 odd thousand kilometers, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, look, I think I got actually pretty lucky with the price that I paid, because we were we were going through COVID essentially. So the seller had actually placed that car on the market. I believe I saw it actually either very late December or early January, and he had it priced much higher. And then obviously, COVID hit, and I think temporarily car sales, they essentially dried up. I actually had stopped looking, because, there's a bit of uncertainty in regards to, just the job market. My wife, she actually owns her own consulting firm, and everything that she had on the go, all projects and stuff, they were just immediately halted, and just projects were put on hold. So I mean, I totally had just kind of just really kind of walked away from thinking about buying a new vehicle. But then, June, by the end of June, things started to look like they were going to, get a little bit better. We were having to go back to the office, one day a week. And for myself, I knew my job stability was there. But things were starting to, my wife was starting to get back into conversations with possible prospects that basically had stopped, essentially looking for consulting services.
Yep.
And and then as soon as I sort of was, kind of had the feeling that things were going to be all right in our situation, I started looking for a 911 again. So
when did you get a pre-purchase inspection for your car? Because I'm a fan of pre-purchase inspections. Did you actually get one done, or did you just take a chance?
Michael, I know you're a big fan of it, and going forward, I would never purchase a car without a pre-purchase inspection. But for this vehicle, I did not. And look, I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I did not go for the pre-purchase inspection. So first off, because the service records were pretty, it was all there, right? So it had a very good service history. The fact that he had a major, well, not the actual major service, but he himself had put about $6,500 into the car in February. So he did the IMS, new flywheel, new clutch. Every time you get it serviced, it shows the percentages of the brakes and the tires.
Yeah.
Those were all over above 80 to 85%. And you get a service, they'll actually put on the service they actually put on the service paper if there's anything that's coming up, and there was no issues coming up. So, and one other thing that the seller did was he put me in contact. He said, "Look, you're free to contact his Porsche specialist." So he didn't get it serviced at a Porsche dealership, but he gets it serviced at a Porsche specialist in Wyong, actually. I know,
right.
Where you grew up there.
Did I say that before?
Yeah.
Have I? Yeah. That's, it's funny. I keep hearing about that Porsche specialist in Wyong.
And
I keep hearing about that specialist though, Justin. I heard that someone else bought a car. I don't know where I saw this. And I think it might have been on Porsche Forums Australia. And they literally, because the person before had serviced a car there, they kept taking the car there. And then they found out that they were really good. And they're in Wyong, of all places. I just don't understand. Having gone to school in Wyong, I don't understand that there'd be a Porsche specialist in Wyong. It confuses me. It really does.
Well, actually, so I still now bring my Porsche to the same specialist because he's been working on the car for the last couple of years. And look, he has a lot of training. He was a mechanic at one of the Porsche dealerships here in Sydney. And look,
I think he was at Willoughby, wasn't he? I think the guy from there was at it was either Porsche South Sydney or Willoughby. I think he was actually trained mechanic there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. I believe it was Willoughby, and look, I feel that because he is in Wyong, quite about an hour and a half away from Sydney, he's able to keep the costs a little bit lower, just because he doesn't have sort of those that city overhead. So
yeah. Oh, that's good. So your car was a Sydney car, or was it a Central Coast car? Who the person that you bought it from?
No, Central Coast car. So the seller that I purchased it from lived very close to Port Macquarie, so 2 hours.
Okay.
Further, 2 hours from Newcastle. So I had to travel 2 hours to Newcastle and he had to travel 2 hours back to Newcastle, and that was about that's the middle there. So so it wasn't it's still a bit of a trip to kind of look at the car there.
So you picked up the car, you drove the car back to Sydney?
I did. So I test drove it. I told him I was really interested, just would like to speak to, his mechanic. He gave me very favorable terms, in terms of purchasing it. So, it's a private sale. And so I said, look, I'm willing to give a deposit. However, I need about 6 weeks, just because of things that were going on at the time, as I mentioned with, my wife and her business. It just would have helped me to delay, paying all that money. And so, he was fine with it. I actually had to wait. I decided to wait after kind of putting the deposit down. I didn't actually take delivery for about 6 weeks till after that. So till about mid-July there.
Okay, so I was speaking to a guy actually yesterday who's on one of the PorscheCooled stories coming up, who's got a YouTube channel, and he bought a 996 in the UK, and he calls it the cheapest Porsche 911 in the UK, and he basically paid £6,500 for this 996. And all he spent on it, he spent up to £9,000.
Oh, wow.
It's coming up in the next podcast, but he spent £9,000. And he doesn't have to spend any more. And he drives it every day and he leaves it outside, and it works quite well. So that kind of when I hear that price, I think, Australia is obviously a different world. And we all know you cannot get a 996 for, what is it? 6.5, what's that, 11,000 Australian dollars, which seems crazy that you could buy a 996, even with high kilometers for that price. But the thing about the 996, and I was saying to him, is that even if you buy something that needs a lot of work and you can't do all the work on it now, you know what I mean, and and you just sit on that car for 12 months, the 996 is going to appreciate very, very quickly. You can see it already. And we spoke about this before with that other car that was on car sales. So I think the 996 is it's a great first 911. You know what I mean? I mean, I know a lot of people look at Boxsters and think I should buy a Boxster and the Boxsters have their merit, and the Caymans have their merit. But if you can get a 996, and even in Australia, like you said, you got yours for 50 grand. And I've seen some others on there for, I guess 50 grand is probably the base price now. I don't think you can get it much cheaper than 50 grand. You are buying a really good 911, and you're buying a 911 that's only going to appreciate because it's bottomed out. And the love for the 996 is growing really, really quickly. And it's helped by people on YouTube such as, Lee from Total 911 buying the green one and putting the ducktail on it and putting the Fuchs on it. I don't know if you've seen that. James at Auto Amateur, with his Project 996. So all these things really do make the 996 very appealing. And I think it's a car that you would definitely hold on to for years, don't you?
Yes. I mean, look, I think anyone... it kind of makes me laugh because I think anyone that just wants their one and done car, without a doubt, it can be the 911 that you own, and you just basically drive it as much as you want, and as long as you keep it do regular servicing, I think it will only go up in value. Now, I mean, the reason why I laugh is because I think that doesn't necessarily apply to me. As I've mentioned to you in the past, I mean, I'm already looking forward to either upgrading the vehicle, or possibly getting another Porsche. I mean, it's just sort of that collector mentality that I have. And look, that is one of the reasons why I didn't mind going for sort of the base, just a C2, even if it's the cab, and maybe I find out in 2 years that it's not a cab that I really want for life. I guess deep down I knew it wasn't going to be one and done. I mean, if I really do enjoy the hobby, I was bound to get something else. And after even just owning for 3 months, I mean, I know that I'm going to have another Porsche.
I was going to say,
my future.
It doesn't take long before you realize you want another one, does it? I mean, it sinks in pretty quickly. So when you first picked up the car, how did it feel when you were first driving it? Was it everything you expected?
It was everything I expected and more. So I did have to go to Newcastle to pick it up. And I mean, it's kind of funny. So I went to Newcastle to pick it up, and it was actually sunny on the way over there, but it actually had started raining by the time I got there. I do have a mate that lives in Newcastle, and I said, "Oh, let's catch up for a coffee at the Westfields there." So I ended up driving to the Westfields, and this is sort of mid-afternoon, probably about 3-4 o'clock, and then it had actually started raining. And by the time I left the Westfields there, it was pitch dark, the roads were wet, and I actually, so I parked in the just the underground garage, and I had no idea how to put it in reverse. So I've only owned one other manual car in the past, and I've only owned one other manual car in the past, and the way that you would put it in reverse is you had to kind of lift up sort of the you had to lift up sort of the bottom of the stick, right? Like to actually pop it in reverse. And I ended up having to Google how do you put a 911 how do you put a 911 in reverse? And it wasn't actually all that clear, but it said someone had put something up in a forum saying like you just have to force it to the left. Like I actually knew where reverse is. Like I knew it was on the left and not in the right, and I knew it was on because you can see the you can see the format, but I didn't know that you just had to sort of force it over to the left. And I got back to the car, just put a bit of force and got it into reverse there.
It's funny you say that because I bought my car I got from Scuderia Graziani in Woolloomooloo. I'm not sure if you know of that dealer. And when I drove it back to where I live in Surrey Hills, I went into the car park and I had the same thing. I couldn't actually reverse into my car park. I couldn't get it in reverse. Exactly the same thing. It just wouldn't go in. I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong here? I just couldn't get it in reverse. Exactly the same thing. So I know where you're coming from with that one. And you just laugh because you're all a bit nervous. You know, you pick the car up and you're still a bit nervous about, you know, scratching it or not being able to drive it properly, having not owned a 911 before. But that's all the fun of ownership. So since you bought it, Justin, has anything gone wrong? Is there anything that you've had to, any repairs that you've had to do, you know, to keep the car running?
Yes. So I had to have a major service done in August in August. So I had the major service done. What was, you know, after they did the major service, what he came back with was that there was, water stains. So sort of, I guess water stains, in the, so there were water stains around the water pump. So he recommended replacing it and getting a coolant flush. So, you know, I think that's about an $1,100 job. Now, look, if I had the PPI done, they probably would have come across that. Now, the thing is, look, at the price that the seller was selling the vehicle at, he probably just would have said, oh, look, I mean, you know, I've already worked that in. So look, I mean, I don't think I would have actually saved any money doing the PPI, even if they had found that. But my specialist said, look, we see the water stains. We recommend getting the water pump and getting a coolant flush. You know, it could go out on you in 2 weeks, or it could last, you know, 4, 5, 6 months. So, you know, I said, okay, well, that's fine. You know, I'll probably come bring it back in, you know, about 4 weeks time.
Yep.
Now, 2 weeks later, I get a coolant leak.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, 2 weeks later, I get a coolant leak. Now, it wasn't actually the water pump that had gone, but it was a hose that had cracked and split on sort of the, on the left, on the rear, to the left. And so I had to get that repaired. And because I was getting that repaired, I decided to do the water pump and gasket along with it. So they do a coolant flush, you know, including all the labor and everything. So that whole bit ended up costing me about $2,000 all up. So, you know, really not all that bad.
Plus the cost of the
but ever since I got that done, the major service comes in at about, so a major service at the Porsche specialist in Wyong there, it's only coming in at about $1,100.
Wow, that's cheap. That's a lot cheaper than I pay at Autohouse Hamilton. I think Autohouse,
yeah, like I said, I know that.
Sorry, I think Autohouse Hamilton is around about, and I'm going by memory here because I don't have my records, but I think it was about, the last one I had done was about 1,800, 2,000, I think, at Autohouse. And obviously Porsche dealers are much more expensive than that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I know it's, you know, it's not cheap at the dealerships. And I do know that the specialist I bring it to is very competitive because he doesn't have those city prices. You know, really good, because I actually asked them these questions, you know, how much is a, you know, minor and major service, you know, when I was asking them about, you know, this car specifically. And, you know, my family car is a Land Rover Freelander 2, which I still get serviced at the dealership. Right. And really the prices are quite comparable, you know? So when he told me that a minor and major is, you know, I think, you know, roughly about, you know, 9 and 11, or, you know, there's only about like $200 or $300 difference between the minor and major. And, you know, compared to what I'm paying for my Freelander 2, I thought, you know what, that's very reasonable.
Yeah, that's a good price. So I'm looking at your car on Instagram now. I'm actually looking at your Instagram feed because I'm refreshing myself. And you've got a stripe on the side. Did you add that?
No, I didn't. I didn't add that. So it has. So the on the side it says, Porsche on the bottom there. So that came with it, and that's similar to yours, right? You have the same decal.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. Mine is two-tone. Mine is a two-tone one, but it's almost the same. It looks like the same size. I forget what mine is. I think it's 3.5 inch in the one I got, which was from Carrera decals, Ren decals, when he was still showing his stripes online. But it looks good. I think it adds to it. It looks really good. What else have you added? What about the exhaust? Has your car got a sports exhaust, or are you intending on adding an exhaust mod, or?
Yeah, no, it does. It does have an exhaust. So I'm not sure if you remember, but that's how I first got into contact with you. So I watched your video on the Fister exhaust, and I remember. I don't know if you remember, but I sent you a message on YouTube asking you why you did not send your cores back.
I do now. I did.
So for the listeners out there,
I do. I didn't realize that was you, but now I remember. Yeah, I do remember. Sorry, Justin.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was when I was doing a bit of research. So, watching all the videos, Fister looked like it was going to be the option that I go with. And then, I sent you the message there as well. But, in US dollars, which is, about what's the US dollar to the Aussie? I think it's about, 135 right now.
Yeah.
But, for the mod itself, it costs about $460. So that's the US dollars. There's a core fee of about $600, which you do get back if you send your original exhaust boxes back to them.
Yep.
To get it in titanium, I believe it was another $280. You can get a hardware kit, which adds another $50, just in case like the hardware is all rusted from taking off your original boxes.
Yep.
But that takes you to about a total of $1,700 US dollars. And look, if I sent the cores back, you do get back $600. But for me to mail my cores back to LA there, it probably would have cost me about $400 Aussie dollars. And so, it's quite a bit. It's quite expensive for just, a mod. So what I looked into was, I have a mate that's part of a watch group that I'm in that also has a 996, and he put me onto the Car Graphic exhaust. I'm not sure if you've heard of Car Graphic, but they have sport exhausts.
Yeah, I have. Car Graphic's got great stuff.
Yeah. So I ended up going with Car Graphic Sport Exhaust, which cost me $2,300 Australian delivered, and then plus your installation. And I absolutely love it. It's it's probably one of the most favorite things on the vehicle. Just the sound
that sounds
from
great.
From the Car Graphic exhaust. And I do feel with with the cost, not only do you get, just a brilliant sound, but it does lighten up the weight. So I think it does weigh a little bit less than the OEM exhaust. And it's said to add about 14 brake horsepower there. So so I thought there was additional benefits.
I think that's a good decision, actually, because you're right. It takes away the weight. I mean, the Fister obviously is probably the same weight, if not a little bit heavier, with the extra welded pipe. And I kind of forgot how much my Fister cost. And I think when I bought it, and obviously Darren's prices have gone up since then, but I think mine was about $1,400. And I had it delivered straight to Autohouse Hamilton, and they fitted it. Then it cost me, I don't know, probably, I think it was 4 hours of labor or something. And then I had to end up buying the new sport tips because they couldn't get the actual other sports exhaust tips off my previous core, which is still on it in my garage. And then I bought the Danks sport tips, and I think they cost me some ridiculous amount of money, another $900 or something stupid. But at the time, I was sort of all caught up in the whole thing, so I just paid it. I didn't sort of worry about it. But I think that's a good point you made. I think that's a good point you made about the Car Graphic and about other exhausts like that, which are lighter. For a Cabriolet that has a bit more weight, or they say it has a bit more weight at the back, to lighten that up a little bit is probably, it's probably a good idea. It's probably a good mod to do that you actually did. And Car Graphic they got great products, really good products. You'll see from the podcast and Steve that owns the GT3, my mate in Sydney, he's always fiddling with his exhaust. He just did another upgrade on his exhaust recently, which is even louder. But I'd like to actually hear your exhaust when I'm back in Sydney. Hopefully we can catch up and I can have a listen of it.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be great to meet if and when you get back to Sydney. Well, not if, obviously you'll get back, but it just depends
when the Australian government lets us back in.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, just announced today. They are allowing Australians to travel to, I believe, South Korea, Singapore, and one other Asian country. I can't remember which one.
See, I'm a bit doomed though, Justin, because being in Bahrain and the amounts, the cases are, they're very good here with testing and everything, and it's very all organized, but the cases are still high every day. They're like 600 a day. So the fact is, if I'm going to be either here or in UK, there's no way they're going to let us in unless, we're from some other country. It's annoying because my wife and I are trying to get back at Christmas. We're really, really trying to get back at Christmas. But I just have to wait and see. So what else have you done to the car? Have you done any other mods? So the stripe was on it. You did the exhaust. I didn't realize you did the car graphic exhaust. That sounds fantastic. What else?
Yeah. So I did the car graphic sport exhaust. And also I with the major service, I had also purchased an IPD plenum.
Oh,
have you heard about the plenums?
Yes, I have. People keep telling me I should get it. I still don't actually know what it does, but people keep sending me messages saying, get the plenum, get the IPD plenum.
Yeah, so check it out. I mean, Google it. But for $1,300 plus installation, and installation's probably only about hour and a half at the most. It actually gives better airflow. So the original is actually, it's a T design plastic piece. The IPD is it's a Y design, so it's actually shaped differently, and it improves performance by channeling air left and right to the cylinder banks more efficiently. So essentially, the design reduces airflow turbulence and increases airflow, which results in they say it results in power gains throughout the entire RPM band. So I think they actually on the website they claim about 10 brake horsepower. Look, I mean, I think I'm too much of an amateur to really kind of notice it.
Yeah. I looked at their website actually. I did check out.
I guess the exhaust. I was going to say with the exhaust plus the exhaust, the exhaust plus the plenum. Like, I mean, I guess it's nice to say that I have an extra 24 power there. So.
The thing is, though, Justin, I never find that my Carrera is lacking in power. You know what I mean? If you're just driving your Carrera, and when I go down the south coast down to that Royal National Park, or even on the Pacific Highway or the Putty Road, I don't feel like it's lacking in power. That is until I get into Steve's car, into Steve's GT3. Then you realize that there's a big difference in power. But as an experience, there's plenty of power in a base Carrera. And I know I've said this a lot of times before. There's nothing wrong with a base Carrera. You know what I mean? There really isn't, and you shouldn't. I was originally, and you probably know this, I was originally looking for a Carrera S 997, and one just didn't come up. So that's why I bought my base Carrera. But I don't think you should, stop buying a base Carrera just because you think it doesn't have enough power, because it actually does have enough power.
100%. Michael, I think I agree. And I think that was just something I added because, you get a new vehicle, you want to, add a little bit of, extra performance. I did the exhaust anyways. And, for a lot of the forums and, just a mate of mine said, oh, look, I mean, an IPD plenum for $1,300, you could get a little bit extra performance. So
I don't think it's a bad idea what you do.
I decided to do it.
Yep.
That being said, I was just going to say, that being said, I'm probably not going to add too many more sort of mods that will increase performance because of, like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not taking it on track. And I have plenty of power for the streets of Sydney, really, at the end of the day.
No, I think doing the IPD is actually, I mean, like I said, I don't know a lot about it. I've read a little bit, but I think the thing that's stuck in my head, it's done in unison with something else though, isn't it? People do the IPD and they do something else at the same time. Is it two things that are done together usually? I remember someone sending me a message once and saying you do the IPD and you do this as well at the same time. I can't remember what it is. But I think with the IPD, what the benefit, and I think, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I've thought about it, but I just don't know a lot about it. I think it's the throttle response, isn't it? You get a better throttle response with the IPD as well. It seems better on the gas.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it has to do with the air, but you're essentially getting better power gains, even in the lower end of the the RPM band there.
Yep. And how's the interior of your car? Is it in good condition?
So that's where I've actually put a little bit of money. So I recently paid $1,100 or put $1,100 into just getting the leather reconditioned. So I think the hot sun. Anyone that's owned, leather interior, like real leather interior, for a number of years, the sun, the Aussie sun is brutal on it. And, you really got to continue to, condition your seats to keep the leather soft. And, that is one thing. So I, paid money to get the leather reconditioned, because you could actually see a bit of cracking and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And the lining of the actual roof was at the very back where it's always folding. There was like a small rip. And basically, there's this specialist that in Artaman that they basically just do interiors. And I know actually Autohaus, when I brought my vehicle there, they actually said, "Oh, look, Autohaus sends their cars there to get the leather reupholstered and stuff." So I mean, I knew I found
what's that place called?
I knew I found they're called Car Interior Plus.
Right. Because there's the guy that Steve,
Interior Plus.
There's the guy called Pro Stitch as well, John at Pro Stitch, which is in the inner city. I can't remember where he is, and Steve's been going to him to get a few leather things covered. He's supposed to be quite good too. I know he works a lot with air-cooled cars and fixing up full interiors and things like that. He's apparently quite good for leather upgrades and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you could, take a look at maybe their page on Instagram. I mean, they actually do, they've done interiors for Ferraris, Bentleys. They do a number of Porsches. So, okay. I just felt comfortable bringing my vehicle there. And look, they did a great job. Like the seats, they essentially low. I'm just going to have to now condition them, regularly, quarterly. Yeah. So I bought just this conditioner that's usually used for saddles for people that ride horses, the leather saddles and that. And now the lining is fixed to my liking. I mean, I'm very picky. I mean, all the aesthetics. I'm actually more concerned in that sort of thing. That's where I actually want to spend my money, as opposed to the performance side. I think it's as much as I can handle anyways, right?
But mechanically, your car's fine anyway, so there's not much more you need to do. It's all good, right? So it makes sense that you would just fine tune the interior and get the interior to look a little bit better.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm pretty much done performance-wise after putting the exhaust in the plenum. For whatever reason, my vehicle did not come with the rear mats. So I bought them and just plain black. Yep. I mean, sometimes I'll have the kids and they'll sit in the back there. So I wanted to get the mats. Yep. And now honestly, now that I'm done with the leather and the lining, there's nothing else that needs to be done. So
sounds good. Sounds perfect. So what's next? What's on the horizon? I'm got this obsession with 912. I was actually speaking to a guy in the UK yesterday about a 912 that's for sale. Crazy. I don't know what's wrong with me. But what's next? What would you buy next?
What would I buy next?
Yeah. What 911 would you buy next?
Oh, look, I mean, with all, your talk Yeah, I think with your talk with Steve, I mean, I think I would have to. I really wouldn't mind, going for a GT3.
Good choice.
Just for that extra, for that extra power. Yeah, and just that, that I think that is sort of, the ultimate, right? And then, if you decide, you could obviously track that, but I think it would have to be the GT3, and I wouldn't mind going for a. I'd be happy to stick with a 996. For that, or a 997. I mean, you've probably saw on car sales, there's been actually a couple reasonably priced examples on car sales. So I think there was
GT3.
I think Auto Haas had two recently. I'm not sure if so there was a 911 GT3 Club Sport, 996 for 169,000.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, that one.
That's on hold right now, and look, it was a bit on the older side. Yep. Yeah, it was a 2000, right? But they sold, and it literally sold, I think, within 2 weeks. There was a 911 GT3 997. It was an '08 with 70,000 kilometers on the odometer, and that listed for 199. And that sold,
that's a good price.
I think, within probably 2 to 3 weeks.
That's a good price. The one I'm looking at.
Well, if you look now, there's also if you
go on.
Yeah. Oh no, I was going to say the one other one was. So if you actually look now, there's a 03 911 GT3 996 for 179, and that one's low kilometers at 48,000 on the odometer, and that one was just listed, I think, in the last week.
I haven't seen that one. I've still got the eye on the 997.1 GT3 in silver that the guy's got. I think he wants 240 for it with low kilometers. I don't think it's in New South Wales. Have you seen that one? The Club Sport silver GT3. I don't think it's sold. That's pretty nice.
How much was that one on for?
I think it's 238 or 240. It's not cheap for a 0.1, but it's only got 30. Okay. I think it's got high 30,000 kilometers.
Yeah, that's I mean, it definitely range. I mean, I'd love to, maybe try and snag one for under 200 would be nice.
Yeah. So for me, Justin, I like my 997 Carrera. Like I always feel like I want to hang on to it, right? I'd like to get a GT3. I'd probably like to get a 997 GT3, 0.1 or 0.2, but probably a 0.1. Even though I really do like the 991.2 GT3s in manual, but when the price comes down, they're a bit high at the moment. And of course, the GT3 Touring. So, there's something in the GT range. So you have the 997, you have the GT3 Touring or Club Sport or whatever. And then I like the 912. So to me, that's like a nice 3-car balance. If I didn't get a 912, it might be a 964. There's a really nice oak green 964 for sale at the moment in Victoria for 149,000. I mean, they've gone up in price a lot, but this is a really nice one. That's kind of where I would sit in 3 cars. What 3 Porsches would you buy if you had 3-car Porsche collection off the top of your head now? Which ones would you buy? Yeah, look,
I would. I think a GT3. So whether it's a 996 or 997, that kind of gives you sort of all the power that you need, and you can have a bit of fun on the track. I would love actually to have a 928 just for a front engine example, and just something that's really old school for the collection. I think I would love to have a dark blue with a tan interior. I mean, I just love the shape of the 928s with sort of that the back there, how just that flat back that you see from behind there. And look, I mean, I think obviously prices are going through the roof, but just to have an air cooled example, a 993 Carrera 4S would be also one. I know on car sales there's actually one that's sort of a greenish blue color. Has a sort of a very light to white interior, going for about 188. When I just, from the outside, I mean, that just looks, that just looks absolutely stunning to me. So, look, I mean, to keep it reasonably priced, that's probably my, the three that I would go for, something new, obviously that, 996 or 997 GT3 RS. I mean, it's not that new, but it's all that I would, really need. You have the 928 for that old school, and then even the 993 for that, that classic air cooled.
Sounds good.
Now, look, if money was if money was no object whatsoever, I think it would actually come down. The three that I would love, and any one of these, I would give up. Collecting cars. Actually owning multiple cars, but give me either a Carrera GT, a Porsche 959. Or even a 911, 997 Sport Classic. So something that's truly limited in numbers, and I'd be happy with either one of those.
Yeah, if I could have one, the 997 Sport Classic, I think would be the one. If I could get a hold of one of those. I mean, the last one I saw for sale that went for sale at auction in the US went for something like $700,000. That was the last one that I saw that went to auction. So I'd hate to think, and that was a couple of years ago, so I'd hate to think what they're worth now. I know there's actually a dealer in the UK that has one for sale at the moment. I saw it on Instagram, actually. Well, it's on, I don't know whether it's for sale, but it's definitely on display. I've never actually seen one in real life. I've never seen a Sport Classic. I know they had one at Dutton's years ago. Dutton's had one and sold it, but it was just online. I never actually saw it in real life.
Yeah, I think I was watching just a video on it. And I think, there was only 250 examples. And I think even the UK only actually had like 10 or, 20 examples at the most. Like there's very, very few of them around, right?
But there's I don't know whether you've seen it. I have mentioned this before when I was talking to Steve. On Magnus Walker's Instagram TV, IGTV on his Instagram, he did a live chat with the head of Porsche Exclusive manufacturer. He did it, and that was the guy. His first role in Porsche Exclusive manufacturer was to do the Sport Classic. And so he talks about the Sport Classic, and he actually talks about the fact that he told them that he wanted to produce 250 examples, and they said, "You'll never sell them. That's too many. No one will buy it." And, corporation. See, Porsche's still a corporation. No one will buy it. And he said, it was obviously not enough examples at 250, and they didn't think he could sell them all. So there you go. The other thing that people don't know about you, and we'll probably run out of time, Justin, because I think I'm looking at my counter here, and we try to keep these within an hour. And I know we stopped because we had a few little technical difficulties with the Zoom today. So I hope the sound's okay for everyone. The audio's okay, because it kind of upsets me when it's not. But I think it's okay. But see, Justin, I think is, and I'm just telling the listeners this, Justin. I think Justin is doomed actually, because he collects watches, and he collects a lot of watches. And the fact that now you're onto Porsche, I think it's just going to be a money pit for you. You're just going to end up with too many cars and not enough garage space, Justin.
Yes, you're 100% right, Michael. But look, I mean, I have been thinking of ways to, I guess, increase my car collection. And I think my watch collection actually has actually grew to a size that I never had anticipated, and so I'd probably be happy to sell at least one watch to kind of add to the to the bankroll for another Porsche. But I mean, look, watches were sort of my first love, and got me on sort of I started looking at watches, when I was a kid, just walking through the mall or whatever it is, and, staring at beautiful, pieces through a window. And I think I bought my first nice watch in, 2006. It was a Breitling Navitimer Olympus, which was a semi-perpetual calendar. Very good, very good price for what it actually is. But look, I mean, I think I'll always love watches. I think what's going on in the Rolex market. You've made videos about this. I mean, I think it's just it's actually it's outrageous. I think what's happening. I mean, I know why it is happening. There's obviously a lot more demand and supply. Social media has obviously taking it to that next level. But look, I mean, one of the things that I'm I guess most in my my collection is, I picked up a Patek Nautilus last year, and to me, that's sort of the pinnacle of watch collecting for for sports models. And so now that I'm actually that I have that in my collection, I'm happy to kind of at least sort of put it to the side, enjoy what I have, and now I have sort of the cars to focus on now.
That's a vintage Nautilus, right? Is that a vintage Nautilus or a new one?
It is. No. That's so that is the 3800.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful watch.
So
that's a beautiful
in terms
watch.
So look, in terms of size, I mean, it's not, it's small for modern day watches. I mean, you have the 3700, which is, what's that meters? And the one that I have is 30, it's a 36 millimeter, right? So, something that would be considered small, but look, I'm not too big of a guy. And, if it's my wrist, I mean, I do look at the end of the day, it's more of, of the piece fitting the collection, and what Patek obviously what they've done sort of in the watch manufacturer game. That's just something that had to be in there.
The Nautilus is a funny one because and we're just going to talk about watches quickly, and I know there's some of the listeners that are interested in the Porsche and watch correlation, the watches and stuff like that. But a friend of mine is a big watch collector, or was a big watch collector. He's actually sold, and he's a doctor in Sydney. And he sold a lot of his watches. But I remember when he bought a Nautilus in the 90s, and he said, I got it for such a good price because no one wanted it. No one wanted the Nautilus. And at the time, he bought the Aquanaut when it came out, the first Aquanaut. Then he bought the Aquanaut on the bracelet. And they weren't that hard to come by. They really weren't. But that was when Rolexes weren't either. But you have a great collection. I mean, you've got it. I like your collection because it's like Porsche. It's like collecting cars. It's well rounded. I mean, you've got the Yachtmaster, the Rolex Yachtmaster, which is fantastic. You've got the green sub, Hulk, we'll call it. You've got some nice APs. You've got a really, really, really nice collection. I just actually I put my name down actually just to get not an expensive watch, just the Harrods Tudor Harrods edition. So I put my name down for that in London when I was there. So apparently it's going to take a year, but the guy reckons I'll get one. I had a recommendation from someone else, and he said I'll definitely get one. I just have to wait. And that's about it. But for me, Justin, I'm just going to buy an Explorer 2 Black Face because I really like the simplicity of it. And it's not an expensive watch, as you know. And I can get one here in Bahrain. I think they might have one on hold for me. They're very bad with communication, but I think they have one on hold for me at the AD here. So I'm going to pick that one up shortly.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, you obviously, can't go wrong with Rolex. So, my piece of advice really to anyone is, first you just got to buy what you enjoy and what you like, right? I mean, these things are, whilst, they are considered luxury items and you don't really want to, lose through depreciation. You also have to, enjoy what you're purchasing. I've taken a look at that Harrods piece a few times, sort of in the pre-owned market, and I really like that because it is quite different. It's that all green piece, right? So I think Tudor is actually doing some really good things with they now have their Pepsi, or their version of the the Pepsi.
So nice watch.
But look, I mean that Explorer that Explorer you're talking about. I mean that's a classic. Classic look, classic design. You can't go wrong. And at the end of the day, what I enjoy about what I've found out really with just certain watches, and now finding about sort of the certain vehicles to look at. If you do it smart, you're really not going to lose a whole lot of money. You're going to get to enjoy it. There might be a slight depreciation because it's not brand new. But as long as you can pay for, whether it's the insurance or the maintenance, I mean, because even watches, I mean, you have to maintain, but you
have to have the passion for it though. It's like cars.
Yeah, no, you're saying like, you definitely need to have the passion for it. I mean, I think, some people have a passion for both, and some people it's one or the other. For me, I think I always thought cars were, or it was actually going to be quite expensive to get into it. But I think with the way that I, kind of, I allocate myself a budget for, kind of that play money. And because I've gotten to my watch collection to where I want it to be, now I'm just putting it towards, something new, really.
Yeah. And I think, the most important thing about cars or watches is don't treat them like an investment, even though you're probably not going to lose money if you make the right choice. Buy something because you really like it. Buy something because you enjoy driving it. Buy a watch that you enjoy wearing. I don't buy watches that I don't like. You know what I mean? I know everyone says, even with the Explorer 2, get the white face because the white face is more collectible. Personally, I don't like the white face Explorer 2. I don't like the Polar. I like the black one better, so I'll buy the black one. It might not appreciate as much, but I don't care because I'm not... With my watches, I've never sold any of my watches, and I don't have a huge collection, as you know. I have about a dozen watches now, but I haven't sold any of them, and I don't intend to. I just, they're just for me. I just like wearing them, and and I get enjoyment out of it. So I think that's how you have to be. I think a lot of people now are buying watches thinking for the social status and because of because they're going to make a lot of money on them if they get them from an AD, and then they can flip them a little bit later and double their money. I mean, watches in London. When I was in London a few weeks ago, I look at the shops that have reopened, like Watch Club in Mayfair and a few of the other resellers, and Rolex are still selling at crazy prices. My BLNR, I should say, not my Batman, my BLNR, that's still selling for 15,000 pounds in London, which is insane, absolutely insane. And even Natasha's root beer, that's going for like around about the same price, a little bit more. So it's crazy prices still. It hasn't gone down. COVID hasn't affected it. I tried to get on the list in London again through the main dealers, and I went to everybody, from Boucheret to Watches of Switzerland to all the main dealers there, and I still got the same robotic response that they're sought after. You made a good choice. Everything's closed. The list is closed. We can't put you on the list. So, that's why I buy from Bahrain, from the AD here. And I pay a little bit more from the AD here because they up their prices a bit because they can, I guess. But, at least I can get the watches that I want to buy.
Yeah, look, I think, you're right. And I mean, look, that's actually what's turned me off a little in regards to sort of the watch collecting. I mean, I do, really like the Rolex pieces for, what they are and what they look like, but I'm not going to pay, 2 times, 3 times retail. I mean, it's just, that's not for me. And, the way that I actually built up my Rolex, or sorry, not my Rolex, but the way I built up my entire watch collection, excluding the Nautilus, I actually paid below retail for every single one of my pieces. The Nautilus, I finally, paid, whatever the going rate is last year. And obviously that's a lot more than what it came out in. But I mean, it's a vintage piece. It came out in the in 83. So, but again, that was, sort of that final piece that I needed for my collection. But for every other piece, I paid under retail, and I just, for some people, it might be fine if you want the latest and greatest, and, you may make a little bit of money, but, that's also a big if. Why, I mean, that's why I actually don't mind focusing on cars and, especially sort of these modern classics like the 996, which is, 16 years or 16 to 20 years old, and some of these are cars. I mean, the same thing is happening in cars with sort of the true high end. Obviously the GT cars, and obviously some of the Ferrari pieces, and some other cars where you have to be on the preferred buying list or preferred client list or whatever you want to call it. But, if you're not willing to pay over retail, you can still go towards, these older vehicles that, at the end of the day, they're going to have a base value, right? They're not actually, you're never going to see a 911 for less than, $40,000 or $50,000, or you're never going to see, a Lamborghini, a Lamborghini for less than, 140 grand, right? Unless it's, really older.
But it's the same.
Conditions. So, for if you want to, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It's the same as like people say you can't buy a Ferrari. You've got to be on the list. You've got to be preferred customer, which is a lot of rubbish. Of course you can buy a Ferrari. You just buy it used. They come up all the time. They're available. You know what I mean? It's this sort of idea that the dealers put out that, it's only like special people can buy. I mean, look how many Pistas have hit the market. Sure, you're going to pay a little bit more, but the prices come down. Even for the Ferrari Pista or whatever. They're still out there. You know what I mean? They're still out there, and especially in the UK, there's plenty to buy if you really wanted one. You don't have to be one of these, preferred customers, like they say.
Yeah, no, look, I agree, and just for me personally, looking at the the car market and the the cars that I'm interested in, I think for if you are into sort of those cars that have came out, 2000, 2001, all the way up to 2010. We're in sort of the probably the best time to buy cars, from those years. And I think, those cars are what are going to be sort of the true classics, right? Like the modern cars that you get today. I mean, you can't even get manuals for most cars. There's, too much technology. You don't get what I think is the true driving experience.
Yep, true.
Obviously, your Ferrari 360s are probably a little bit, too expensive to maintain because you still got to pull the engine out. But if you're willing to spend a little bit more and go for a 430, then you still get sort of those a true sort of modern Ferrari, right? By sticking with some of these older cars and not necessarily going for the latest and greatest.
Absolutely. Justin, I think we'll leave it there. I think we've given people, I think almost an hour and a half today, probably about an hour and 20. So we've gone a little bit longer than normal, but that's good. Really enjoyed talking to you. It sounds like you bought the right 996. It sounds like you found a good one, and it sounds like you're enjoying it, which is the main thing. So thanks for doing this on a Sunday night.
Yeah, no, not a problem, Michael. Thank you very much once again for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure. I do hope, I know we're having a bit of audio difficulties, so I hope, that gets all sort of sorted out after the, just the editing process and that, and, it's, that it's hopefully usable and, or at least listenable for everyone that's listening to it out there.
I think it should be okay. I just got to fix up the delay, but I think it should be okay for everyone. All right. This is PorscheCooled Owner Stories. That was Justin from Sydney, Australia, 996.2 Carrera Cabriolet. It's really, really nice. Justin does have an Instagram. I don't know whether he wants me to share that. If he does, I'll put it in the link to this podcast. Yeah. You want me to put that link in?
Yeah, you could share it. Yeah. So, I could go by, at Justin Stacks for my Instagram. So just that's just my alias there.
So it's at Justin Stacks. If you're into watches and you want to see Justin's 911, check out his Instagram. He's the watches are going to make you envious. He's got some really, really nice ones if you're into watches. So I warn you beforehand. And the 911 looks pretty good as well. Thanks, Justin. Great talking to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.